All right, so the course you should be in right now is AUT 212, Operation and Programming. Um, those of you that don't know me, which I think everybody probably does by now, but I'm Allison Bush. I'm be your instructor. Trying to kind of skip over some of this. There is no actual book for this class, guys. What it is, see if I can pull it up on our Blackboard side here. I'll have to remember where that's at in a minute, but we kind of wrote our own book on this, or I should say Rich Raymond did. One of the big things you need to make sure you bring every day are your safety glasses. Now, what they're talking about is either you have the wraparound that fit close to your face, or you have ones with something like a side shield, or you can use chemical goggles, whatever you need to use, but they need to be safety glasses. Okay? So that's a big one, mainly because I don't know a single industry person that does not end up having to wear safety glasses when you're out on the shop floor. As far as safety goes, it just means that there are two things you can't replace on the human body, and that's your eyes and your ears. You cannot replace your hearing, you cannot replace your sight. So safety glasses are something big in everything. You need a 6-foot minimum tape measure with a metric scale. I know Amazon sells them. I think you can kind of shop around at Home Depot or Lowe's. It does need to have a metric scale. Okay. You need a scientific calculator. We won't be using it much, but you do need to go ahead and have one. Standard classroom supplies, that's paper, pencils. Guys, I will ask, I don't care if you take notes in pen, but anytime you are in a lab, that is pencil only, please. All right? Because I don't like following the scratch out roadmap. 1 gigabyte thumb drive. And this one right here, the bullet tip dry erase markers, what I'm talking about for that. Okay. I don't have any up here, but this is what's called a chisel tip. You can see it comes down at an angle. At one point, you're going to use the robot you'll be working with to write your name. And if you use the chisel tips, they don't do very well, considering that the surface area is so small. So if you get a bullet tip, those tend to work better. So that's why we ask for the bullet tip dry erase markers. It's not so much for us as it is for y'all to use for these. Okay. And you also are going to need some form of a computer or tablet. Reason why is because you're going to be looking up specifications and directions a lot on the on these robots. We even have links in here that are about the robot specifications and such. So what that should mean to you is a lot of things are going to revolve around online everything. So please make sure you've got either a tablet or something. If you don't, I do have computers in the back in that cart that you can borrow. Okay. So I'm not going to read over all of this, guys, just because there's a lot to it. But one of the big things I'll definitely go over here is this right here. This is your grade breakdown. This is how all of the things that you do in this class are going to be broken down. So the very first thing, we have first week quizzes and agreements. If you have ever been to one of our classes, you know that we do a first week quizzes and agreements. What that means for you is it just is the syllabus quiz, syllabus agreement, safety evac, general knowledge that you need to have for this, that, and another. It's 5% of your grade, so that doesn't sound like much, right? But let's say you have an 85 and you have all of this done. That's an extra 5% of your grade, meaning that would bring it up to a 90. So it can mean the difference of a letter grade, depending upon how close that gets. Not to mention, it's basically free points because one of the best things you can do about these websites, I'll show you right here. This is our page for this particular class. You go to start here, course syllabus and brief. You can pull this up at the same time you take the quiz. Okay? Literally is very easy. We have 3 tests. We dropped the lowest test score, of course. Assignments and homework are 13% of your grade. Labs are worth 35% of your grade, guys. What does that mean then? That means a lot, right? If you don't do labs at all in this class, are you going to pass? Nope, you will not. Because a passing grade in our department is not a D. It's a C. That means 70 or higher. Okay? So labs are 35% of your grade. Required lab supplies, that's going to be things like your safety glasses, your pencil, things like that. And then you see the final exam is 20% of your grade. In other words, he hangs out by himself. He is not considered part of your test. He is a final exam. And I'll go ahead and tell you why I'm saying that the way I am. And that's because a lot of people seem to think that the final exam is just another test. It's not. If you don't do the final, you drop 20% of your grade. That means the highest grade, if you ace everything, make all A's on all your labs, make all A's on every other bit of work I'm giving y'all, but you do not take your final, will you make an A? Highest grade you're going to make is an 80, which is a low B. All right? So no, the final is not part of the 3 test draw. I've had people come up and ask me, hey, what if we ace all 3 tests? Can we not do the final? No, you have to do the final. That is not negotiable. I will tell you that all tests are cumulative. What that means is that anything that you see on test 1 is probably going to be some of it on test 2, test 3, and the final. Okay? So there will be 3 tests that are cumulative. The lowest score will be dropped when calculating your final grade at the end of the term. If you are absent on a scheduled test day, I'll go ahead and tell you now, if, let's say one of y'all gets COVID, right? If that happens and you have to be out of school, that allows for makeup test. But let's say you just don't feel like coming to school class that day. Just go, oops, I forgot that we have a test. I can't let y'all make it up for that. There are certain ways and whys that I can allow a little bit of makeup work, but 99% of the time, we just don't have the time, guys. I try and go over the test the next class. Why? Because it means that you get feedback on what you might have missed or something you might not understand, or maybe the wording kind of threw you off. Okay? So the only way you get a makeup test is under very special circumstances. If you end up falling into those circumstances, we'll discuss it and get it taken care of. All right. So first week quizzes and agreements, we've already talked about. Assignments. Guys, I really don't use dates on the assignments very much, just because I know sometimes it's very easy to get busy and have that missing brain moment where all of a sudden you go back and go, oh, I forgot to do that. So I'm not a super stickler for it, but I'll go ahead and tell you now, the sooner you get something turned in, the sooner you get your grade back and the sooner you have a better idea of what you're understanding. Does that make sense? Okay. Labs, how to say this? Y'all will be working probably around each other. We've got 3 robots we'll be running. We've got our ABB, our Motoman, and our brand new one that's called Sawyer. Right now, due to physical difficulties, the little yellow Fanic's out because one of the joints is having an issue, and we're having a problem with our visual card on our KUKA. So I will be providing y'all with the labs as we go. And that's going to be the biggest thing we do. I will be recording any lectures we do, like we're going to have a lecture right after we get done with this. So it is in a classroom setting. They are not edited for content or anything. I'll be posting them to my YouTube channel, which I should have a link on Blackboard. If I don't, I'll put one in. But I will say, if you miss a class one day and you know that there's a lecture, please go back and watch it. It's just for your benefit. It doesn't help me or hurt me to record the lectures, but it can help you if you miss a day. Okay? So let's talk about attendance. Now, I tend to want to treat everybody like the adult they are when they step in this classroom. So when it comes to attendance, you need to, let me back it up. When it comes to attendance, I'm not your parents, I am not your truancy officer, I'm not anybody like that. It's up to who to get you here. It's up to you. Okay? I cannot come to find you down, hunt you down, grab you by the ear and drag you to class. That don't work so well. We try and set our classes up so that whenever you come, as long as you come in, do the work and everything else, you really should not have a problem passing the classes. Main people that don't tend to do well in these classes we do are the ones that just don't bother showing up. So when it comes to attendance, I take it about halfway through the class, and the whole purpose of that is to allow any stragglers that are not here yet to come in. Again, I kind of do that for y'all's benefit. Withdrawals, if you feel like you cannot get through this class, I cannot drop you from the class. Let me put it that way. I cannot go into my computer and tell it to drop you from the class. All right? This goes back to you need to be here. I cannot make you be here, but if you are not here and you've missed a bunch of work that we really don't have time to make up, then it should be up to you to drop the class. I can't do it for you. Okay? Just to make that very clear, I cannot drop you out of the class if I think that maybe you are not coming to class. I can't do anything about it. That's all up to you. Now this one is a big one for me, and that's academic integrity. So maybe you've probably heard of academic integrity. You know what it's supposed to be, the whole thing of no cheating, no plagiarizing. Plagiarism is where you take somebody else's work and try and pass it off as your own. Cheating would be looking at somebody else's answers and trying to use it on your own. We're going to have questions in each lab that you have to answer. This is not a team effort. Okay? The questions on the labs are not a team effort. I do not, and this is my biggest pet peeve, guys, because I know everybody is smarter than what they think they are. My biggest pet peeve, guys, is people that go to their lab partner and say, well, what do you got for your answers? I'm just going to write them down on mine. That means you did not learn anything. And you know how we can tell that somebody is either cheating or plagiarizing? Because the answers tend to be word for word exactly the same. I'm not looking for one person's thoughts. I'm looking for everybody's thoughts on these. Okay? So please do not do that. Because if I catch you at it, I'll give you a 0 the first time. The second time, I will have to turn it in to the Academic Integrity Committee. Okay? It's just not worth it, guys. I promise. I'm very lenient when I grade. I try and read through what is asked of you, and I try and read through your responses to make sure everything is clear. But I'm not looking for your partner's knowledge on your paper and theirs. I'm looking for both of your knowledge. All right? All right, I'm going to step off that soapbox then. As long as we all kind of understand each other. Y'all got any questions about any of this right quick before we move on? Professional decorum. Now, there are some of these that I'm a lot lenient on. One of them being the wearing of hats in class. There's some teachers that will not let you. Me, I understand that for some reason hats can be attached to the head. But if I see you pulling hats down trying to take naps in my class, that might be where we end up with a problem. Okay? Texting, guys, whenever I'm up here, it's not for my health. Okay? It's not. I'm up here trying to tell you things that might be on a test, or helping you with advice on trying to program these robots. I cannot. If I see everybody has their phones out and texting, I will not recover any material that you have missed. Because I will assume that you already know it if you have no interest in my lecture. All right? That is another pet peeve of mine because that has become a big thing for everybody. If I see everybody has their phones out and they're texting, not paying attention to me, we're just going to move off topic and do something else. Sleeping, please don't do it in my class. If you are that tired, there are other places you can go and sleep. Please don't do it in my class. That's not appropriate. Eating or drinking. As far as eating, I ask that you don't do it in the classroom. If you just absolutely have to, like you missed breakfast and your blood sugar's dropping out or something, as long as you clean up after yourself, that's fine. But I do not want ants or any other critters coming in here looking for your food, okay? And it's really not fair to expect custodial services to come in and clean up after you whenever it is your mess, okay? And as for drinks, I ask that you do not take them over to the lab area because I do not want the drinks spilled all over my keyboards. And second preference is I'd like it to have a cap. Reason for that, because if you knock it over, a cap saves my computers. Simple as that. And wearing inappropriate clothing, we're talking about things like sunglasses, which if they're not prescription, I ask that you do not wear those in my classroom, or I will assume you're trying to sleep in my classroom. Like I said, I don't have a problem with people wearing their hats in class as long as you don't try and hide behind it. Another big pet peeve is earphones, and that goes back to that texting thing. If I see you with earphones in your ears, I'm going to assume that you know everything you need to know, and we're going to keep moving, even if you don't know what you think you know. Does that make sense? Okay. And guys, there is a dress code. I ask that y'all do make sure you review it. Most of it is just don't come to school in your pajamas. If you come to school like you would go to, let's say, your parents' house or to a job, if you would not wear it on the job, please don't wear it here. Okay? I know what fashion is these days. I don't understand why everybody's clothing has to have holes and look like you got it out of a dumpster, and that you pay $500 for that privilege of looking like you just came out of a thrift store. But so course concerns. So if you feel like there is something that we are covering or doing in class that you have a problem with, my door is always open. I'm not the boogeyman. I'm not going to sit there and go, why are you bothering me with this, blah, blah, blah. If you have a legitimate concern that you want to talk about, let's talk, okay? Now listen. But I do listen. If you and I cannot resolve it, next person you would talk to is Rich Raymond. I don't know if all of y'all have met him. He should wheel through here in just a little while, and you can meet him then. So if you, me, and Rich cannot solve whatever issue is going on, then we can go talk to the person the both of us report to, and that is Nancy Wilson. So that is that. Discrimination, harassment, I don't put up with it, guys. Yeah, I mean, it's not as, speak to others like you would ask them to speak to you. How about that? Let's live by that rule. Sound good? In other words, don't try and demean anybody. Don't try and be mean. Don't, whatever you want to do. I mean, just live by the golden rule in this classroom. How about that? Disabilities. Let's kind of talk about that real quick. If you have a learning disability or a mobile disability, and you have to, let's say you've got a bad back, you can't stand up for 3 hours, you need to sit down while you're working with the robots. I can't do anything about that unless I've got an email or a piece of paper from the disabilities office. I can't give anybody special treatment. Okay? If you want to sit down in between times where you're programming the robot, fine. There are a couple of chairs over there if you really need to sit down. For the most part, I ask that you don't have chairs over there simply because I don't want people tripping over them, falling into them, or whatever. Okay? But I cannot help with any disability that you might have. Let's say you have ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, something like that, and you might need extra time on a test. I cannot give that to you without you turning that in. Does that make sense? Okay. Cell phones and pagers. Well, there's some people that still use pagers. It's not what it used to be whenever I was growing up, where everybody has a pager. These days, it's kind of rare. But as for cell phones and pagers, I ask that you put them on a non-audible mode. If they need to vibrate, that's fine. If you feel like you need to have somebody be able to contact you, that's fine. With the thought of keep it on vibrate, and if you must answer your phone, or if you need to go make a call, I have 2 exits that you can use to do so. Okay? I ask that you would either step out in the hall or step outside to make your phone call, just so that you do not disturb your fellow classmates. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Acceptable use policy, I've never really had much problem with that. For the most part, everybody seems to understand that you're here to do specific work with what you need to work with, not mess around on the internet. And I will ask this, guys. I know it gets tempting sometimes to use our computers to help charge your cell phone. The only problem with that is that if you do that, it tends to upload things from your phone to our computers. Okay? I have plenty of wall outlets and I have power strips at every desk. Please use those. Do not use my computers to charge your device. I do not want to have to try and go through every computer whenever it dies from memory issues. That is a really royal pain. Okay? Children on campus. Just real quick, the reason being children are not allowed on campus. And that's a couple of different issues with that. One, especially in our department and area, we're working with heavy machines. I don't want kids don't need to be in here without extremely strict supervision. Number 2, and I can say this because I have 7 nieces, the biggest thing they will do once they are done playing with the phone, done playing with the tablet or whatever, what's the next words out of their mouth? I'm bored. Entertain me. Things like that, which is not conducive to a good learning environment. So children on campus are not supposed to be here. Okay. I'll let y'all read through the rest of this. The next big thing I want to say is profanity. I ask that you keep your language PG to PG-13. Okay? Now, if you fall flat on your face and after you trip yourself up and you end up letting something out, that's one thing. But I don't want to have y'all in discussions where every other word's the F-bomb. And there are people that do that out there and think that it's cool. It's not cool. Don't use it. You know, like I said, if you trip and fall and hurt yourself and you sit there and start dog cussing for a minute, I can understand that. Just don't make that part of your everyday language. Does that make sense? Any questions about the syllabus, guys? All right. Well then, while we're moving on, let's look at I'm going to go ahead and pull up lab procedures, and we're going to go ahead and go over those. All right. Good Lord, that's tiny. There we go. All right, lab procedures. Because this class is probably 80% lab, in other words, you will be spending a lot of time with the robots. I will go ahead and tell you now, you're going to not only be spending time with the robots, you're going to be spending time with the robot manuals. Now, I can help you all with some of the things that you will be programming, but a lot of it is going to be going to the manual and trying to ask yourself, how do I do such and such move? What are the specifications for this? That kind of thing. Does that make sense? So, it's not that I don't want to help you. I will help guide you to something, but I'll put it to you this way. In the field, you're not always going to be coming up against the same robot every time. So knowing how to use a manual for it is probably one of the best things you can do, because most of these robots all program the same. The only thing that's really different is their operating system. So it's just like one of these phones. It's a nice smartphone, right? What's all the things a smartphone does? They take pictures, they call people, they text people. There's always the basics, right? So what is the difference between a Samsung and an Apple? It's their operating system. Does the same everything. It's different operating systems. Kuka runs off Windows. I can't remember what the other ones run off of, but everybody has their own operating systems. What is not different between each of them is they all move the same way. Okay? They all do the same thing. It's just understanding the different programming languages. Does that make sense? So once you program one robot, you can program any of them. It just takes a second or two for your brain to start trying to twist to translate. And sometimes, whenever you're trying to do this in field, all you've got in front of you is maybe a computer with the ability to look things up and YouTube things, or you just have nothing but the manual because you have no internet. So that is what it is. Okay? So just kind of explain what we're going to be doing in lab a lot. So food and drinks are not allowed when working on the labs. I will say this is supposed to be a tobacco-free campus. I know there are still places where people go to smoke, but it is supposed to be a tobacco-free campus. Meaning no dip, no cigarettes, none of that. And guys, if you do dip, please don't do it in front of me. I know that some people don't think about it, but I'm not a big fan of watching people spit things into bottles. Or spit all over the floor. I had a boss that did that. Safety glasses, anytime you're not in this area, you need to have your safety glasses on. Why? Just because if you look, each of these robots have hoses to them. That's pneumatics. And you never know what's in a pneumatic line, and if one happens to snap loose or dry rot in front of you, the last thing you want is all that pressurized air with dirt, oil, crap like that. You don't want that in your eyes, guys. So do please protect your eyes. All labs need to be done in pencil. If you do not have one, I do have some spare wooden ones, and you can sharpen them yourselves. Okay? Before you start an experiment, I do have a lab grade form, and you will staple it to your labs. If you need a sign-off, if it gets to the point where everybody is kind of jostling for me to come and do sign-offs, we'll do a sign-off sign-up sheet. So far, I've not had a real issue with that. So I have not really had to use it that strenuously. If we do get really busy where everybody's going, hey, I need your help, I need your help, I need your help, I need your help, then I will probably have to institute a sign-off sheet. Okay? All right. Like I said, I'm not going to read through all of this word for word. If you're working in a team, everybody needs their own lab grade form. If you are absent and your team moves on without you, then it is up to you to come in and finish out labs another day. Okay? I'm not going to hold your team up just because you ended up absent for about a week. We don't, let me put it to y'all this way. A normal class runs 16 weeks. Okay? They run from August to December. Our class runs 8 weeks. So in other words, what we've taken is a 16-week class and we've smushed it down to 8. So what does that mean? That means that every day of class is worth a week's worth of normal class. That's why that class lasts so long. Okay? So there really is no time to stall out and wait for somebody else to come back from, let's say they decide to go on vacation or, something like that. There really is no time for a lot of makeup work unless it's done on your own time. If you need to come in because let's say you just did not have the time, I am here Tuesdays and Thursdays. I get here at 11:30. Fridays, I'm get here at 8 in the morning. And I leave about 1:30. So what that means is that's your windows of opportunity if you must come in and get work done. Okay? If you fall behind and you need to get yourself caught up, those are the times I've got for y'all to do it. I'm running 3 classes this mini term. Those are my hours that I get to have for grading and stuff. So just heads up on that. Like I said, I'm trying not to read all of this out to y'all because y'all can read it yourself. Questions at the end of each experiment are not a team effort and must be answered individually by each student. Do not copy answers from any book or other student. Okay? Goes back to that plagiarizing cheating thing. Don't use somebody else's work and try and pass it as your own. Each of you is far too intelligent for that. If you have a question about a question, you can always ask me, and I will try and steer you to the right answers. Okay? One thing I would ask that y'all do is before you leave, I do have some sanitation wipes back there. If you would please wipe down whatever areas you've been in. Even bigger though is please put your chairs back where you got them. Okay? Having to run around behind everybody and push chairs in and everything else, not cool. Okay? Things are busy. We just do it as a courtesy to not only yourself, but to other students that have to use this room. All right? All right. Any questions about the lab procedure? Yep. Yes. Every robot has its own teach pendant. The ABB is a touch screen. Motoman has buttons. And then Sawyer, you mostly program him from the ARM itself. Yes. On Blackboard, yes. That would be, by the way, this is your lab grade form, your name, your partner's name, experiment number and title. And where is it? All right. All right. So again, this is our Blackboard site. First week quizzes and agreements. You've got your syllabus here. You've got the safety evac, dress code, and all that. If you go under assignments, you have the specs, lecture slides, and there's labs. Gotta figure out why it's done that, but oh yeah, it's all shuffled. Should be in here. If it's not, I will go back and put it in there. All right. So before we move on, let's talk about assignments. In which case, yes, there are assignments. Okay. So assignment 1 is your first week quizzes and agreements. It's a very easy set of points and a very easy assignment. You got to do it anyway. You just get points for doing all of it. Okay. Assignment 2 is that you need to send me an email. That way I know, can you actually contact me if you need to get a hold of me, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Assignment 3 is you're watching a YouTube video and it's about what did you learn about robot safety. There's a couple others in here, but I'll let y'all kind of look at it on your own. Final assignment, that is going to be towards December whenever they release these student surveys. I know they're long, tedious, and a pain in the rear because it's like 50 questions, I think, at this point. But they do ask that we get students to complete those, so that's why it's an assignment. I said, I know it's tedious, I know it's aggravating, but it is what it is. Like I said, I'll go in and make sure my YouTube channel's on there. Because didn't mean to do that, but okay. You can do it at any time, but the first week quizzes need to be done sooner rather than later. I know some of them have dates on them, and I'll go back and have to get rid of the dates. I don't know why the dates keep coming back, but they do. So this is my YouTube channel. Just kind of give y'all an idea. These are all the ones that I did the last term. Got a couple from this mini term. One of the things I do is I create playlists with all these, and I try and keep these up as best I can, guys. If not, you might just have to look at the general stuff and sort it by date. But I try and organize it into classes. Why? Because that way you can look for your specific class, or if you need to, you can actually go back and look at older classes. Because I do have those posted. Okay? Huh? I'll put the link out there because there's a lot of them with this one I gave it. I didn't know that, but there's a lot of channels out there with the same name as mine. So I'll put a link on it. Yep. So, yep, I have a YouTube channel out there for y'all to use at your convenience. Any other questions, guys? All right.